going to talk to all of you, but I just want to introduce him real quick. So this is Joanne and Mark, Fred's parents, and Matilda, his sister, and astronaut Fred, whose wish was to go see the launch of the last space shuttle. And I'm going to turn it over to them now.
Hi, my name is Fred. I dreamed to be an astronaut twice. One was that I was having two dreams of being on the launch pad, but you know, some kind of dream I had, I'm not a real type of astronaut, though. In my backyard, I just saw like this long worm. Hi. Louder? Hi.
Thanks, guys. So Fred was born with a disorder called diamond black fan anemia, and his bone marrow does not make red blood cells. It is very rare. In fact, there are less than 1,000 cases of DBA in the world. Fred's treatment includes blood transfusions, and he has had over 150 of them since the day he was born. Fred was about 4 when he started learning about astronauts. They are his heroes because he knows it takes courage and integrity and strength of character for astronauts to do what they do. He knows they do not become astronauts without discipline or dedication and a good education, and he also knows that only a select few are chosen to go on a mission. That is what Fred dreams about. But Fred connects to astronauts in another way. He knows astronauts, like himself, have a lot of medical exams and procedures and what we in our household call little pokes, which are blood draws and transfusions. He also knows that when astronauts spend time in zero gravity, they are subject to what's called astronaut anemia. This is a condition where their bone marrow stops making red blood cells and they get fatigued, much like Fred. DBA can be very complicated, and about 1.5 years ago, we discovered that because of his transfusions, which he can't live without, dangerous levels of iron had built up, which he cannot live with. This made him a candidate for bone marrow transplant, but his chances at the time of survival were too low to proceed with transplant because of the damage that had been done to his liver. He began an aggressive regimen of medicine, which was injected through his port 24 hours a day, and that meant he had to wear a pump in a pack that weighed about 20% of himself. He called this his astronaut pack. And during those 4 or 5 months, he had multiple complications from infection and spent literally a week out of every month as an inpatient. So Fred was given a wish. And it was no surprise that that would be to watch a shuttle lift off into space. Sometime after our initial contact with Make-A-Wish, Fred was in the hospital yet again for another infection. And I got a call from Megan Mead, his wish coordinator. She told me that the foundation could grant Fred's wish. And it was the ultimate wish because it was the last shuttle to launch in the shuttle program. But I am a mom, and Fred was in the hospital. And the thought of all we had been through, and the idea that he would have to bring his pack and his pump, and I worried if the needle came out or if he had another infection, and then we'd be in Florida for his whole wish in the hospital. So I told Megan we really appreciated all that she had done, but we couldn't risk it, and we'd have to pass. She was very understanding and told me to call her if we changed our minds, which I told her I wouldn't do. Well, Mark and I spent that night with Fred in the hospital, and I don't know what happened, but we did call, and we did change our minds. And a couple days after Fred was discharged, the 4 of us were getting into a limousine headed for the airport. The day before the launch was to happen, the tower was struck by lightning, and the launch was put on hold. In the morning, when the go was finally given, NASA predicted, because of the weather, that there would be a 70% chance that the launch would not happen. Nevertheless, we arrived at the Apollo Saturn V Center, and it was amazing. We met astronauts and their families, and we overheard conversations all around us from the people who have been into space and the people who spent a big part of their lives making that happen. They were old friends and colleagues, shaking hands and hugging and talking about past missions. And as the countdown kept going, NASA at this point had shortened the odds to 60% chance of no-go. But we started to feel energized, and we all cheered the countdown of the last planned hold, which is to say we were counting down so that we could count down to the launch. We chatted to the folks around us, we sang the national anthem, and we all cheered again at T-minus 60 seconds. We got giddy. And I let myself think that 60% chance no-go was actually really a 40% chance go. And then my camera died. And as I frantically tried to put a new battery in my camera, I heard the teenage son of the guy next to me say, "Dad, the clock stopped." And you might know, because you've been there maybe, or you've read about it, or maybe you've watched the movie Apollo 13, that there are 1,000,005 things that have to happen perfectly and in order to get a mission off the ground. And that a hold at T-minus 31 seconds may very well be a serious safety issue. So we forgot how much we wanted what we wanted, and we waited. Only a few minutes later, the clock started up again, as if it had never stopped. The clouds that had threatened showers all morning gave way, and we saw a little bit of blue sky. And at T-minus 10 seconds, we all counted down together, as if it were New Year's Eve. But after 1, at 0, it was quiet. Not a single sound of someone coughing or clearing their throat or moving hair away from their face. We watched the shuttle rise and clear the tower in absolute and complete silence. And then we heard it, a thunder that rolled through the air and entered our bodies like another heartbeat. I realized at that moment that all of us who were there that day became connected to something wonderful. We all, in a very small but very real way, contributed to the success of the mission. And it was as if God tapped me on the shoulder and said, "I know you think your situation is impossible. It isn't. There are only variable degrees of what is probable. Everything is possible." If all that the Make-A-Wish Foundation had done was send us on a vacation, we would have had a good time, and we would have come back, and we would have said thank you, and that would have been that. But to have a wish granted is an experience far greater than that. So much greater that all we can do in return is to try really, really hard to say thank you. Thank you for all that you do, for making us a part of something really special.
Fred, this is for you and your mom and dad. Where are you, buddy? So this is actually a picture of John Glenn and some signatures of all of those astronauts who went on that first shuttle. So I know you're going to recognize them because you I bet we do. I bet we do. So this is for you and your mom and dad. And then this is for you to open up later. But this is from, do you know who Joseph Allen is? He was part of the crew of Apollo 15. And he put some fun things together for you too. This is for you, honey. Good.
Hello. When I first started getting into space stuff, I just started, like a NASA, but it's really cool, like all this, Make-A-Wish stuff, but it's so great. Well, sorry, but I know, but Krista McAuliffe is my favorite teacher. Goodbye. My name is Matilda, and I want to be a princess when I grow up. And I have dreamed about the Wiggles.